Recording now.
Okay, got it. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful edition of Movie Minds podcast. Hopefully, this one will be seen by the public. We'll see how it goes. But it is I, Joe, one of the hosts of Movie Minds podcast, and I've got my friends and colleagues here, teachers and film fans. I've got Brad Sizemore,
How you doing?
and I've got Brandon over there.
What's
It's beautiful, beautiful. And now that we've been regaled with the musical talents of Mr. G, we are now going to talk about the last requested. I think this was actually the subscriber requested movie from December, maybe January. We're running a little behind, so we're trying to get caught up. But that is the Truman Show. You voted, and we are going to discuss it. So, would either one of you like to take this one, or should I start us off?
I think I started the last time, so I definitely don't want to start this time. Let someone else do it.
The corrupted file one you started?
Yeah, technically.
Yeah, I think
It doesn't exist.
They'll never get to know. That's true. Yeah, we were giving them a hard time about. Yeah, so technically doesn't count. Yeah. But all right, Brad, do you want to start? Or are you going to make me do the work? I'll have to go off the cuff because I didn't have anything prepared. I'll admit, very unprofessional.
I don't have it, Joe. You're really good at it, so you're better than I am at kicking it.
All right. Okay, here we go. Off the cuff. All right. So I watched this a couple of days ago, and it was the first time in a couple of years. I've only seen the Truman Show. Actually, this might have been my third time watching it. I saw it once, years ago, probably once again when I was starting to really explore different films. I want to say high school, college, around there. Saw it once, saw it again, I don't know, maybe like about 5 years back, and I liked it. I've always really enjoyed the Truman Show, but I wasn't admittedly super excited to go back to it. And maybe we'll get more into that later. Basically, Truman Show, quick summary, is Jim Carrey in one of his first big dramatic roles basically stars as this man named Truman. And he seems like a very nice, kind of average, ordinary everyman, a true man, if you will. And the twist, which isn't really a twist because it's kind of set up pretty quickly in the film, is that his entire life is being recorded in basically the ultimate mega reality show based on basically his life. And so he is living his life based on his experiences. He is the person we see. And this is where it gets complicated and rich with discussion, I'm sure. But pretty much everything about his life around that has been fabricated. So his parents, he was basically adopted by this company. He was the first child to be basically adopted legally by a corporation, because this is sort of a loosely sci-fi dystopia, kind of, even though it's like kind of a comedy. It's like there's elements of that there, but he's owned by a corporation, so they can use him, exploit him, and they are treating him well, but effectively it's the most elaborate prison, and it's being basically live streamed, fed across the world, and people are basically really experiencing this man's life as genuinely as they possibly can, but it's all been fabricated. They're interjected with all kinds of advertisements because you have to have product placement. So his wife, she's married to him. She's had a life with him, but it's all been orchestrated and fabricated by the corporation, specifically the major producer, director guy, Christoph. He has an interesting name there, maybe some unsubtle things we'll get into later, but definitely this guy who basically has formulated his whole life, his whole world around Truman, and really wants to give him the best life. But there are all these issues later on that Truman wants to leave, but they fabricated things about his history so that they had his father written off the show by basically saying, oh, his father died in this storm, so he's afraid to basically go across the water because he thinks he lives on land, but it's really within this giant dome, basically this huge environment that is completely isolated. But they say it's big enough you can see it from space, so it's like it's big enough that he can go around it for miles. And some people do live like most of their lives or their whole lives in kind of a, I don't know, like a 40-30 mile area. It is possible. So that's basically him. He keeps finding these different roadblocks, and they keep basically creating narrative reasons for him to not go. His wife wants a baby and says we have to save money and we have finances, which is very relatable. and he works at this insurance agency. So of course he's always thinking about the risks, and but he starts to notice some little things, and that's kind of because, well, a couple of things happen. First of all, his father actually wanted to get back on set. He was kind of mad about getting kicked off, so that kind of starts to think, wait, my dad's alive, and then you start seeing these people basically shoving the dad off onto a bus, and it's really coordinated, and and it's really weird because from his perspective, this is his whole life, his reality. So when this starts happening, he just might start thinking he's losing it, and it could be very easily perceived that way, and it's relatable because I even commented to Amanda, we were watching it, like, if this wasn't the setup that it essentially was, this could be a tragic tale of a man dissatisfied with his life and just slowly kind of losing it, because it gets kind of intense at some point. So there's some really interesting fine lines of the themes I want to basically definitely hear your thoughts about, guys. But yep, there's also a love interest that was kind of briefly interjected when he was in college, but turns out she really did have some attraction and feelings for him. So outside of Truman's life, there's this whole political, basically, what do you call it? There's a whole group essentially who are trying to free Truman and believe what's being done to him is wrong. They have a whole perspective on it, and so there are a lot of people, despite the popularity of the show, that do think it's wrong, and so like they're trying to believe he'll break free of it, and he starts noticing these little things, starts questioning his life, his friends, and the rest of the film was basically, how does Truman finally get out of it? Is it necessarily wrong that he's in the situation, that he's being exploited, but he's being given basically this perfect paradise to live in, but it's still a lie. It's it's a prison. So there's really thematic and interesting things about it. I'll tell you more of my opinions about that stuff and other thoughts, but I'll hand it off to you guys before I give that, because I guess I did the summary. So now that I did that part, who wants to actually tackle thoughts and feelings about the film next?
Brad, you can go ahead. If not, I'll jump in.
Brandon, why don't you? I did, Joe. I talked to Brandon last night for like 5 minutes about the movie because he just watched it. So
man, you guys! Oh, spoilers! You're supposed to.
Yeah, we didn't really. Well,
you broke the code, man.
Yeah, let me say this.
I didn't call him about.
I wasn't invited to this meeting for Movie Minds. You guys were preempting your script. I look like the fool.
I told him to save it. So Brandon, I would like you to go on, because he told me precious little what he thought about the movie. So I'd like to hear, because you saw it before, right?
Go into detail.
You saw it before, right?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
But then this was a new experience in some way for you. Like you had a different outlook.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it, and then I can build.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was kind of talking to Brad about this a little bit last night, but he said, I didn't want to go into too much detail. There was a phase in my life where I was a huge Jim Carrey fan. I'm talking maybe like middle school, early high school, faded away a little bit. And then there's a good Jim Carrey story, I want to say, that happened to me in college, but I'm going to hold it until we're done with the Truman Show. So we'll come back because it's kind of hilarious. But so for me, just like you, Joe, I saw this movie. The last time I saw this movie, I remember exactly when I saw it last. I was a sophomore in high school. Had seen it before several times, really liked it a lot. And that was my Jim Carrey phase. And then watched it last night, and the feelings just were not there. I think I have grown out of my Jim Carrey stage of life. It's like every Jim Carrey movie I go back and watch, I'm like, I found this funny. Why did I find this so funny? Maybe that's just, like, in the words of Blink-182, I guess this is growing up in a way. I'm officially, I think, out of my Jim Carrey stage of life. With that being said, it is one of his more serious roles. Liar Liar is still a classic, but that's not the movie we're talking about here. I think I'll always like that movie. But add that to the list. That's a great Jim Carrey movie. But so I just some things that I noticed as I was watching the film. I kind of liked the setup of the movie. I liked how it doesn't hold back. Like, as soon as you turn on the TV and pick the Truman Show, you are watching a man's like, you know what I mean? It doesn't like, it's not one of these like, aha, like halfway through the film you figure out that it's a TV show the whole time. No, like it gets right into it, and I liked that. I liked, as the viewer, knowing this is what it is. How's he going to figure out that it is a TV show? Um, I think it was a little fast paced. I think he caught on way too early in the film. But then again, I guess something has to happen at some point. I just kind of wish there was more of like watching him grow up, I guess. Like you can only fit so much into how much production time they probably had. But I would have appreciated more, like, we as the viewers get to see that too, like not just flashbacks, you know what I mean? Um, so there was that. There was some things I wrote down. I actually didn't take notes during this one because I kind of wanted to just experience it. I knew enough about it beforehand to, like, I could, if I had to, just do this on the fly. But the first thing I appreciated as a business teacher was your use of the word product placement. And I think it's hilarious and awesome that that's their ad. It's literally a show you can watch 24 hours. There's literal bars and restaurants that are dedicated to the Truman Show on the outside. So that was their only way of getting commercials, which, I thought was funny. I thought that was really funny. Like Bosco syrup. Maybe you should try some of this Bosco syrup. Like no added sugars. Like you're literally like watching an ad. Like this guy in his life is watching an advertisement. So yeah, I thought that was funny. Getting back to the dad, I don't know if they mentioned this or not. Did he sneak into the set and return on his own? That was not, like, they didn't plan for that, right? Like he just
No,
showed up.
I don't think that was coordinated with the pro Truman groups. No, I think he just kind of got on, not because he cared about Truman that much, but because he just was mad about not being part of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, because I'm like my hit home point is gonna be this, and I think Brad's gonna agree with it. Also, did Truman get paid? Did anybody give this guy money? Like, is there an account somewhere?
Oh, the
What do you guys
royalties?
think?
Well,
Yeah,
there's a whole basically small city state dedicated around him, so he was given the best possible life ever. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe he should be compensated for all the profits in his name that he doesn't know about. That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah. Like that's the first thing I'm asking when I leave there. I'm saying whatever that line is. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. And first thing I'm asking is, where the heck is my money for the past 30 years? The first thing. Um, and then the other question I had too: do those actors ever go home? Like, do they have a life outside of Truman Show, or like, could you imagine being like an actor, knowing what's going on, and like just leaving your family to dedicate your life to someone else's life that doesn't know that it's a TV show? Think about that.
Well, it's like the most like beloved thing ever. I kind of got the impression that most of those people like dedicated their lives to it. They literally are living in this isolated situation because they'll be part of something great, I guess. They're also taken care of, apparently, even though some people are just like background characters that are on a loop. Now, maybe if it's like people he doesn't interact with that much, maybe they can be changed out a little bit or whatnot. But as far as like the people in his daily routine and that, I don't know, couple miles around him, like a lot of those people probably are there for
Yeah.
years and years because especially like, his they have to construct basically a whole society, a whole narrative with all these fake businesses that have to run. I was kind of thinking it reminded me a little bit of just kind of like more advanced video games where like you'll have NPCs with their pre-programmed basically routines. Like if I play Elder Scrolls or something, that was a big deal where you go around and like they'll conversate, they'll basically do their laps, and that's kind of what's going on. It's essentially this ultimate virtual experience except with real people. He doesn't know it's to its own benefit. So yeah, I think some of the people like his best friend. I mean, that guy, I mean, maybe he goes on vacation, but what if Truman randomly wants to say hi to him? Like they can't risk it. He kind of has to live pretty much in that dome,
Yeah.
just for the sake of the show, yeah, and the illusion.
Well, speaking of the best friend, and that's who I wanted to bring up next. Like, he's as invested as Truman. Didn't they say like they met when they were like 5 or something, like early on in life? Like he's
Yeah,
like
he's a child
that guy's
actor.
So
Yeah.
like
so that's a good question I wanted to ask you guys too. It made me think, like, you're right. He is invested in Truman, and he was basically, it was orchestrated for him to be his friend and to build that friendship from such an early age. So you could argue the core of it is disingenuous. And so you could say, how much of a true friend is he to Truman? Maybe not fully, because he's in on it. Obviously, he has been for a long time. But he also has been his friend. And not only just being super committed to the role, he really grew up with him. He really does know him as he is. And I guess the idea is that we do get to really see the man, although it's in a limited, basically environment. So how true is it? But he believes that he really does care about the guy, I think. But it's one of the another questions about the line between a performance and what's genuinely true relationship wise, which I thought was kind of a meta commentary about really just narratives that we tell ourselves, what we believe. I thought that was another idea there. But yeah, I think he's really dedicated, and yeah, I think so. I could be wrong, and I had a question about him I wanted to ask you guys later. My wife and I were talking about it, but I'll save it for later. He brought up a good point, Brandon. Good point.
thank you. Well, real quick, and I'll just sum up everything with this. Every single person on that show, other than Truman, is really messed up. The whole
Okay.
dang thing. The whole dang thing I do not like. I think it's weird. Shame on those people. Like this, if this was real life, I would be one of those people leading the charge on Save Truman.
What?
You people
Oh,
are messed up. This is the
wait,
most ridiculous thing I've seen.
Brandon.
You're all going to H. Just
Well, wait.
terrible.
Hey,
Good.
well, Brett, that's interesting. So you think in this situation you wouldn't be one of the masses just so absorbed by the Truman Show, you'd see the moral questionability of it. That's good.
Freedom fight,
That
baby. That
well, if Brad can hold his thoughts, because I did, since we're on that train, I had a question for you guys. Then speaking, you brought, okay, so from your perspective, you were like, man, everybody in on this, they're all terrible, which I think is interesting, and I can see your point. But here's the real question: who do you think is the worst person in Truman's life, like morally? Who? Because I was thinking his best
that's
friend.
easy. No,
You think that's easy? You don't think so? Who are you gonna say? You gonna say his
the
wife?
wife. The
Oh
wife's terrible.
man.
And the mom.
Okay. Oh, the mom.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Awful. It's pretty bad. I'm actually kind of
Like
surprised that Truman is able to kind of bounce back from all of it pretty well. It's like, man, I'd be
even
devastated. I wouldn't
even
get out of bed.
even Christoph too. I would have had a better time
Mm,
accepting if Christoph would have just had the actors there and let Truman live his life, not picking his wife, picking his best friend, picking all these
mhm,
things. It was
mhm,
like total control. And really,
mhm,
I mean, if you want to get, I'm sure Brad's going to dive into this, so I'm going to kind of assist here because I want to hear
mhm,
Brad's thoughts too. The whole thing is evil from a morality, I think, religious perspective too. Christoph is literally controlling that world like God. Like, shall not have no
mhm.
gods before me. Like, I'm pretty sure he thinks of himself as Christ figure. So I kind of want Brad's thoughts on all of that.
I do too, and I thought it was interesting because some of the I don't, obviously, like I said, some of that's pretty unsubtle with what they're going for, and Christoph definitely thinks what he's doing is right, which I thought was interesting. So I think there might be some really questionable things here for sure, but I,
Most
I do
crazy
think there.
people do. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, crazy, yeah, the crazy people do what crazy people do, but I think there is some complexity, and I find the Christoph character really interesting. I think Ed Harris's performance is really good. He's one of my favorite
Absolutely.
actors, and he's so great. And I really just I liked his performance just as this show producer and as a director. And there's a lot of little commentaries about directing and writing and acting there, and I thought that was. But I just thought he sold that really well, and
Yeah.
I love that conversation with the end. And I know obviously it's probably warped in some way, but I kind of thought there was some metaphorical stuff there going on too. But yeah, there's definitely some themes there about like man leaving paradise, but the paradise is also a lie. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would like to hear
Paradise is
Brad's
prison.
thoughts on that. Yeah, the paradise is prison, but there's
Yeah.
it's knowledge, but then there's
Oh, real
knowledge
quick,
and so like,
Joe,
yeah.
maybe Brad too. You know what it really reminded me of? That Twilight Zone episode where the astronaut crashes on a different planet and they put him in a zoo, but the zoo is like Earth paradise. Do you remember that
Oh
episode?
yeah, I think I've seen that one.
That's exactly what it is. Sorry, go ahead. Go
We
ahead,
should
Brad.
talk about some Twilight Zone here sometime. This
Yeah.
this is a
Oh,
big
that
Twilight
Twilight.
Zone
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. Twilight Zone's awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot to talk about there. What you were saying, who's the worst character? Like you were talking
Mm.
about Kristoff there and the wife. I think the wife is that wife of his is the worst. Kristoff is not a hypocrite. He's a vision. He sees himself as a visionary. Like he's doing something important for the world. And so I think he genuinely cares about Truman in a way.
I got that in a
Yeah,
way.
he is over him in a godlike role. The other thing about that is I think there's a lot there if we're just talking about the concept. This was like uh, a similar feel to it, a movie that came out a year later, like The Matrix is a darker version of this. So the Truman Show is a little lighter. So the question is Truman a slave or is he like a godlike figure? Because he kind of is both. He doesn't realize it, but he is like the source of happiness for millions of people, the source of entertainment. You see these kind of pathetic people who it's kind of funny, but like the person in the bathtub and the person at work, like they base their whole lives around him. They've got Truman merchandise, like you said, Truman restaurants and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, he thinks he's just living his life. He's simultaneously like the biggest star on the planet and a prisoner of in this kind of like uh happy place, but it's kind of mundane happy place. And I think one of the messages that you could get if you were going to be a little what's the word I'm looking for? If you're going to be a little bit of a pessimist about human nature, Brandon, you said like you would be against that if you were involved in it. There would be people that would argue like you are already involved in things like that. You are already like somehow contributing to other people's slavery or the contributing to the structures of oppression, all that kind of thing.
Stuff you buy, supports this company that does these things and
Yeah,
nobody talks about it, that sort of thing.
those
Yeah.
those kind of things like how do we contribute to that? So there's that as far as the story goes. It's a really it's a really neat story. The concept of it. This company, I think it's called Omnicam. I think it's cameras everywhere, so like the all-seeing eye. Like you said, they have this like kind of like storybook community. You see it from space. Um, but it's in similar in like what you were just saying about the paradise is a prison thing. So I right away like the first I've probably seen it like 3 times, like you guys, I think. Um, and like the last time and then this time I saw it, I think I mentioned this, Brandon, to you offhand last night. Like it made me think of Plato's allegory of the cave. Familiar with that, where people are born in the cave, they think what their experience or witnessing is the real thing, it's only shadows on the wall. So your job is through philosophy, according to Plato, but your job is to leave the cave and enter the real world. And I think there's something of that going on there. Um, and then I think you have kind of obvious things with Christoph's name being like Christ, um, things like that. Um, So that's a little bit about the story. It is kind of funny the way they manipulate him, like Joe, like you mentioned, his father's death in the water to make him scared of the water. And he has a job where he has to calculate risks. But then this woman, he has this love interest who puts into his mind this idea of Fiji. So he wants to get to Fiji ultimately, and that ends up being like the liberating force. So the idea is love, like love will liberate you from this prison. Like you've got to go through. He goes through the thing that killed his father, and he comes out the other side. And so you kind of have that kind of like archetypal hero story there, where he survives he survives everything the gods are throwing at him, the storm and the sea and the there's all that. Speaking of the, just wanted to mention his best friend. It kind of cracks me up. They're still doing product placement, like when Truman goes off, like he escapes and they can't find him,
Hmm.
and he comes over to the house and he comes in the door with the 6 pack of beer like in front of him. They're always they're
Truman,
always plugging.
got my
Yeah,
brewskis. He's committed to that thing that's worked every single time. Like even
yeah,
in this complete disaster moment, I'll go to what I'm used to. My default reaction.
yeah. So that's yeah, like we just, I mean, there's a lot there. I don't know if we want to talk more about that because there is, um, there's some obvious things there and there's some subtle things. As far as the movie goes, um, like I actually think I'm like some of Jim. Let's just talk about Jim Carrey. So some of Jim Carrey's comedy, is funny. Like some of it gets a little old. Like I don't really want to. Like I don't really want to go watch Dumb and Dumber or anything. Per se. I think he does okay. I think he can do a pretty good job when he does like dramatic roles.
Hmm.
Um, I think he did a good job in this. He wasn't like over the top eccentric, like he wasn't being Jim Carrey, like he was being a little goofy at times, but um I think he does similar. There's another movie Jim Carrey's in. It's also got like a kind of sci-fi neat concept like Eternal Sunshine. You guys seen that?
Oh yeah,
Oh, that's
it's a
mine.
good movie.
What's he play in that one? What year are we talking? I might know it.
Uh
2004, I think.
it's a little later than this, yeah. Like he did, I think he does a good job in that role as well.
That's
Which
Um
that's a
one
very
is the one where
sad
he's the
movie.
cop and he adopts those kids? I like that one.
is that
Uh,
you, me and Irene
Yeah,
or something?
that's it.
oh,
That's the
Yeah,
one. That's a good one.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
I
Yeah.
always really liked the Majestic. Actually, that's probably my favorite dramatic role of his. You guys ever see that one?
You know what? Did I
He like
see that?
he like loses his memory and he gets washed up on the shore of this small little town. It's kind of got a similar vibe to this, and like they all think he's this war hero that died because I guess he looks similar, and
Oh,
so they start like being
that
like,
I've
"Oh,
seen
like
that
you're
one.
him." And
Oh,
that's
okay.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that was a very I know it's a little it's supposed to be like harking back to classic Hollywood, but I think that's a very underrated, serious Jim
I
Carrey
haven't seen
performance.
it.
That's a
I should
good
watch it.
one.
That's actually one of my favorites. I really like that movie. And also it helps that he, has to help build a movie theater and movies bring people together. So that's kind of the trope of the movie, but
Mhm.
that's a good one. Very heartwarming story, I think.
How about the Grinch?
You know, I think he has some good comedy in The Grinch. I watched it again recently. I don't think that movie is really the best for children, though. I think I think it's more mature theme than I realized, but it's pretty
I
funny.
remember I remember because I was 8 years old when that came out, and I loved it. I loved it, but I remember being really scared of it in the previews. Like when we, back in the early 2000s, I was that's when movies that 90s and early 2000s for me that anymore I don't go to a lot of movie theaters. That's when I was going to the movies the most as a kid, and probably
Mhm.
because my parents liked the movies. And I remember seeing the previews for it like maybe a year earlier, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to see that. I'm scared of that." And then I remember seeing it, and I was like, "Oh, I really like it." But I thought he did a good job in that movie. It's not the best movie, but it's I don't know. I think it's a funny
Well,
movie.
yeah, I mean, I since we're kind of on Jim Carrey's performance, I mean, I think I might be in one of the I might be in a little bit of a minority here. I think a lot of people really love Jim Carrey in that '90s boom when he was in The Mask and what was it, Pet Detective, Ace Ventura. Like I I was a little young, I think, to really appreciate it, or I just kind of missed some of those. Like I think the earliest one I remember really liking was actually Liar Liar, stuff like that. So yeah, that I kind of around that era, but I was exposed more to his more dramatic stuff anyway. So I've always really appreciated his more dramatic roles. And I think I really like how just he goes so far with method acting. He can really when he really wants to lose himself in a role. Like, have you guys ever seen of Man on the Moon?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's a good
So
one.
like how he really truly becomes the Andy Kaufman person. Like he just lived him, and people thought there was almost like a line. He never snapped out of it when he wasn't filming. So I don't know if Truman Show is on that level, but once again, he is trying to literally play kind of this likable, relatable everyman, and he does that pretty well. And he is kind of innocent. He maintains that, which is good. So yeah, I don't know if this is like his most energetic performance or his best dramatic performance, but I do think it is a testament to the guy has range, and I think he is quite a good actor, and um, I did appreciate him in this movie as well.
Cable Guy.
Oh yeah, Cable Guy's underrated. I like Cable Guy. That's
I like
that's a
That's
good
Cable.
a
one.
Yeah,
great.
I like Cable Guy.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
something else, as we were just talking here, that I forgot to mention about the business side of things. Um, and I teach different, business structures, and I go into like a corporation can own property, a corporation can sue you. And I think whenever, because I haven't taught this lesson yet, I'm gonna say, and a corporation can also own a baby.
Oh,
Like
you.
the Truman Show up there.
Yeah, I remember we're watching. I was kind of wondering how this is so illegal. Like, oh, the first child ever adopted by a corporation. Oh, okay, they explained that away. All right. Yeah, so
yeah.
Oh, they
they
got all their
covered that one.
Joe. Don't you? They
They
got all their bases covered.
bases covered. No, I'm like that's it. That's interesting, and I'm like I kind of want like there's a lot of questions that the movie brings up that like you kind of want to explore more, and I guess it is just supposed to be kind of this allegorical tale of just basically freedom and your truth and what the truth really means. But the logistics of the setup, it's like it is really cool. I think. I mean, other than Jim Carrey's and really everybody else's performance. I think just the concept is really cool, and there's really good follow through with it. I also feel like the movie is pretty prophetic in terms of just technology and also just the reality TV thing because this was kind of made before that was really like a huge boom, and that's it, like it's just become so prevalent now. And there's like this really big thirst people seem to have for watching reality TV when a lot of it's very scripted. So this one's trying to kind of almost create like the most genuine one anyway, but it still is just a big production. But the source of the success of it is the core of truth within, which is this person who really truly believes it. Like to him, it sort of is genuine, unless you could just argue it's not because it's all been fabricated and structured. But that's what they're trying to do. And I like I said, I love the technical aspects of the movie that I appreciate it much more this time. Like for instance, just the fact that they use so many different cameras, so many different angles to try to get these different views on his life, and really the costumes and the set design, the
Hmm.
lighting. I just love there is also some good moments of comedy, like when oh we got to look for Truman and literally the moon becomes the
Yeah,
searchlight,
yeah.
which is pretty cool. And like at the beginning with the literally one of the pieces comes down, and they explain it away as oh, on the radio, oh, like there was a downed air flight traffic, thing, the down plane, like they weave that into the narrative of his life. But yeah, that if it was filmed in a different way, this could be like a really creepy
Yeah.
thriller Twilight Zone episode, or some guy really feeling he's losing it. Like I kept thinking about how they could do the movie a different way, and I just love the simple things. Like there's just some really good set design. Like as he's going across the ocean, and they're literally just amping it up, and they're almost going to kill him. Paul Giamatti has a good little role as like one of the tech guys, and then Truman really gets to the edge, of his world, metaphorically, literally, and he just touches this beautiful, looks like a beautiful matte painting, basically. And you see the perspective; it's not really that big, and then there's the stairs that ascend, to the higher plane, or it just it's and the framing of just the black backdrop of the unknown, but he's not afraid to enter. Like it's just like there's some simple ideas, but there's also a lot of really good attention to detail that if this was a massive production, like the biggest undertaking ever, that this genius is using a man's life to create it around, they make it seem like it really is that. Like so they
Mhm.
do a good job of really selling me on that. And the concept is big and the human character moments are big. So I personally think the movie works pretty well. And it definitely gets you thinking. And I think it's got some good messages. So yeah, I actually liked it more, I think, this time than I had initially saw it. I was kind of surprised.
I'm
I
telling you,
was not excited to watch it.
it would have been so much better, I think, if you went into the movie not knowing it was a TV show about a man's life. I think that should have been like the plot
Twist.
twist. Yeah, I really do. I think you should have found out when Truman finds out.
That
I
would have been
thought
really cool.
yeah, just my take. But
Mhm.
something if we could just kind of switch gears, and I want your guys' thoughts on it. What do you think the after like because they never did a sequel. So what do you think the aftermath was like for him? Like out in the real world?
Man, I can't even imagine that. We were talking about that after watching it, like what because you totally could do a Truman Show sequel, like The Journey of Truman. Um, I don't know because there was the question too. It's like you said. There's all these little things it brings up. Like he was adopted by this corporation, so it's not like the corporation owns him, but he is also sort of a product, and we don't know exactly how it works in the setting of this world. Like technically, I mean, if he's an adult, so he can do what he wants, right? I think I'm almost curious about the fallout of what happens to the company. Do they do this to somebody else? Maybe Truman meets up with the girl and they try to. It becomes we really see the horrible dystopia of how everybody's controlled by all these TV shows. But it's really presented almost like it is just an everyday contemporary sort of world. And I love that there's almost another little bit of commentary they give there where like you guys said, everybody is so invested in this show in Truman. It seems like the whole world kind of has some investment in it to like a fanatical point. But the moment the show ends, even though they're on the edge of their seats, like, we'll just
Yeah.
see what's on. They don't care. Like all that investment, all the money that they were putting into it for this elaborate production, it's kind of like, we'll just turn something else on. Like they weren't really that invested because it wasn't really true, which is I think it's an interesting point, and maybe it's trying to say something about the vapidness of TV or television, but I also know that that's also not true from a lot of people I know in my life or myself. Like if I'm really invested in a show that I love, I'm gonna be talking about it. I'm gonna be like, what's gonna happen? Sequel, spinoff, and that. So like, I get what they were going for, and I feel like there is some truth to that with a lot of people. I guess if they're the casual viewer, but it seemed like the world didn't really care about what happened to Truman. But yeah, you're right. Will they do it to someone else? And then I don't know. I'm not really sure, honestly. I think there's a lot of good questions, but I don't know. What do you think, Brad? You got an idea
Yeah.
for a sequel? I have no idea.
No. Yeah. If I was writing a sequel to Truman Show, I think Truman. I mean, there's different ways you could look at it. I could see Truman after he gets into the real world, he wants to go back because
Oh,
he grew up in that. You know, it's nice. It's really nice. He never, you have to, when you get to the outside and you have to deal with what is actually going on in reality. I could see someone, I mean, if you want to lose this like an allegory for people's lives, like, that's a question. Like, do you want to, it's to go back to the Matrix thing, like the red pill, blue pill. If you take the red pill, I mean, a lot of people don't want that. They would rather go back, rather back. Yeah, I guess it's fake, but I'm still living here. The people I know that I've loved my whole life are here. The wife, I don't know, she's whatever. But like I could
They were
see,
gonna write her off anyway.
yeah,
yeah.
Remember?
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead, Brad.
They get into love interest.
yeah, get something else. But anyway, I mean that there's different ways you could look at it. I could see him wanting to go back, or I don't know, because that's not, there's a reason that we don't remember when we're born. It's traumatic. And like him coming out of that, what is it, Sea Haven or whatever it is, him coming out of that dome and then going
Yes,
into
yeah,
the,
yeah.
yeah, it's suddenly like it is for a baby. It's cold, it's loud, and it's scary, and you know, no one's protecting you. Like Kristoff's protecting him. Like no one is watching
Do
over
you
him the same way.
do you think that he would have anything to go back to because the whole show was based around him?
That's the
So
thing.
what
So
would
yeah,
there be someone they took in his place and he's got to like
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that's a very interesting question. I kind of would like to see what they would do if they made another one. It doesn't look like they will, but I mean, if like, do you get another baby, start all over, or what do you do? Or they
I
could
mean, it
just do
got a
like
lot of
show
mileage out of it.
just re just replace him for the next season with a new Truman and act like it's just act like he's been there
Also,
the whole time.
reruns for
Yeah.
like so many years,
Well, they
so
got
many
years of
reruns,
reruns. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So many.
30 years to be exact.
Yeah.
Yeah. 10,909 days or whatever it was, something like that. So all those
It's a
reruns.
lot. Just put that, syndicate that, or whatever,
Oh yeah.
so you could stream it.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking
totally.
from a business standpoint though. So in this world, that's the bar now for entertainment. Watching
Yeah.
someone's life that has no idea you're watching it. How the heck do you get better than that? I mean, what's after that? Like, you know what I mean?
Wow.
There's
You'd have to
people
like
that would
elevate it
what
to.
were you saying, Joe?
I was gonna say you'd have to elevate it like with new special effects. Like you could have somebody in this world, but like make it like, I don't know, the ultimate pyrotechnic and animatronic dragons and like make it fantasy or sci-fi, and they don't know. Maybe like really go the next level. But that is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, you could do a lot with that. Like you said, well, Truman's gone. Uh, you could rent it out, or people could pay to go in there, and then you like tailor the world to whatever adventure they want, or
Ooh,
they have to
Oh
Truman, like
spend.
yeah,
Truman
or
for a day.
Yeah, however it
yeah,
goes.
you
Like
could
you
do a
said, it
lot of
could be
marketing.
very fantasy, sci-fi. It could be whatever. Like you could live in there. People could still watch it because these weirdos still want to watch people on TV. So
Or you could do like everybody in the world is watching it. So factory tours, you could still sell the merchandise. I mean, and if Truman or I think really wanted to pursue it, like he could just live off the royalties. I would try to get a lawyer and like just try to get something for that because without Truman, you don't have a show. So
Mm. No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I know a good lawyer that could represent him.
Uh-huh. No, you don't.
okay. No, you don't.
Oh, man, that those in
I will
jokes.
say,
Okay.
I will say this: like, if you got, I know we'll get to it at the end here. This was of the movies we've done so far. This was the toughest for me to think of a rating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It was difficult
it
for
was
me
hard for
to
me
rate it.
too.
It was difficult for me. I don't know.
Why was it difficult for you to rate it?
Uh, I re- well, I really,
I haven't thought of my rating yet. I'm still forming it right
yeah,
now.
I'm actually, I'm still thinking of it. That's what I'm saying. I'm floating. I got some different options. I'm in a range, but
Okay.
I think the story's cool. I really think the story's cool. Like you said, I like the way that the detail that went into this. Like this is what it would be like if you built this elaborate, gigantic complex for a man to live his life in, and all the detail of it. Um, the acting's not bad and all this kind of stuff. I think sometimes though, if this like sometimes if this makes any sense, the movie doesn't live up to the story or something. Some
It,
aspects of
it
it,
maybe it could go deeper. It could go further.
something, yeah, yeah.
I
So
I agree. It's kind of like what Brandon said about how I agree. He does. I guess it's just to keep the plot moving, but either having it be a twist later on, or maybe just yeah, the fact that Truman figures it out so quickly, and
Hmm.
doesn't go through more. I agree. They maybe that could have stretched the runtime a little more, but I agree they could have gone further into the ramifications, some of the ideas. There's some really good moments in it, but I agree it doesn't. I feel like they definitely could have gone further
yeah,
with the idea. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there was no like there was nothing for me. You knew what you were getting into when you watched it. There was no like they could have just done so much more. This rating was difficult for me because I do remember really, really, really liking that movie in high school, and then seeing it now as a 29-year-old man, I just didn't like it as much. But I'll tell you one thing I always crack up at. And my buddy, I remember laughing at this with my friend when we were watching it in class because we had one of these really cool English teachers that really liked showing movies, and that was one of the movies he played for us. And I really like when those runners come out of nowhere. I remember yelling like during class. I remember saying, "Cue the runners!" Just those runners coming.
Yeah.
Runners.
They come from what?
There's some good comedic moments for sure. The radio
like,
stuff's
I-
pretty good too. Like, wait,
And then-
there's something behind that door. There went in there. I don't have anything prepared for that storyline today.
when they
Yeah,
put him on
there's
the
some good comedy
bus.
moments. Oh, and they all get up like perfectly synchronized. Oh, we can't go. Like that's like everybody's nervous about it because it's never happened. So they did that a little too perfectly. Nobody complained. Nobody slowly got their stuff out. It was all like, we got to go.
Mhm.
So there's a good little
The
moments.
traffic
like
jam. The perfectly
Yeah.
synchronized
Oh,
traffic
what do
jam.
you know? Same road, no traffic now. How about that?
Mhm.
Clear
There's some good
accident.
moments.
Sorry,
Nuclear.
folks. There's
Oh
been a
yeah.
nuclear.
They keep escalating the issues
Yeah.
to keep them going. That's
Yeah.
pretty great. Yeah, that's pretty good. There's some good visual gags in there for sure. I'm like, what? And he's like, what next? What else are they gonna come up with? He handles it pretty well. Yeah, I know some people I think have this movie pretty highly rated. I don't know like generally, but I think some people put it pretty up there for Jim Carrey movies. Are just great movies. I don't know if it's really up there for me, but I do think it's a pretty good movie though. I do enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good movie. I think a lot. I usually, if we're doing this, I like to just watch. I don't look at like critics' reviews or whatever.
No.
I did read Roger Ebert's review. I just came across it, so I read it.
Okay.
And it was good. I just looked at some of the critics. It was all very highly rated. It was a very highly rated movie when it came out. So it is a
People
good
generally
movie.
like this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a good movie. But like I said, that's why I had trouble rating it myself because it's like, well, like we already said, like I don't know. I want it more to happen in there. I can't really put my finger on it, but I did not like the ending. Um, I was dissatisfied with I was left wanting more with the ending. I don't know what I wanted, but
Well, I can see where you're coming from, but Brad, wouldn't you say that sometimes to be left wanting more is a good
yeah,
thing?
yeah, but we didn't get it. So
So darn it.
where's my
So
Truman?
whatever, man. I don't care.
Yeah,
I wanted more Truman.
I
Man.
wanted it now. Yeah,
I want it now. All right.
Me,
no,
yeah,
yeah, I guess so.
it really. Yeah, I agree. It really wasn't the best ending, in my opinion.
Wrapped up a little too
They
neatly.
should have just went like 5 minutes of straight Seagal. He just goes up there and Christoph and just throwing him
He's
around.
It should have been like he goes back and he fights him one-on-one
Yeah.
with like some karate moves.
Yeah, they got all
That'd
these
be cool.
guys
Well,
running at him.
You know
Well,
what's
let it
really
be known.
scary though?
Yeah. What?
He kicks him right out of the moon at the end. He just kicks him through the screen into the moon. And then he says like like a cheesy line about the moon, like the moon, it's a full moon or something.
Like,
It's
now I'm the man on the moon.
yeah, now I'm the man on the moon. Well,
speaking of Christoph, though, what was really scary is when Christoph says, "I watched him be born," as in like this guy might actually kill Truman. Do you remember that line?
He tried to. He was like, if he dies, he dies. It's still good TV. I could kill him if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
He's the ultimate creation I've given the world. So he's like, if it's just part of the story, he's like, make it a good shot. Sell it. I mean, like I said, very interesting. I really do find that character fascinating. I kind of want more about him, honestly. Like, what's that guy's backstory? Seriously, really, he's like the auteur director with like so much power.
Who was the actor that played? Because he's been in a lot of stuff. the actor that played Kristoff's boss. I think that was his boss.
Oh, that guy. I've seen that guy in things.
Yeah,
Yeah, the older guy. He's like the CEO.
yeah,
Yeah, I love that
the
guy.
CEO.
That guy's good.
And you guys ever watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
He's in that.
Sully is one old cop, the fat
Oh,
cop. He's the one playing that
oh,
security guard.
oh. No, I didn't know. I've only seen like 1 or 2 episodes of that show. It's funny.
Oh, it's a great show. Brad, you looking
Andy
it up?
Samberg's pretty fun.
No, I was seeing who the boss was. I don't know. I can't find it.
Yeah, he's the he was yeah, I know that guy. He's like he's got the jowls and the that really defined face. I think he was actually in some old Coen Brothers movies, or we were actually talking about a movie he was in that neither of us saw the other day, Brad. He was like it was like an early, was it Paul W. Anderson movie or something? We were talking about it. He was like, I don't know. I know that
Philip
I know you're
Baker
saying
Hall.
Philip Baker Hall. Yeah, yeah. He's a good actor. He always kind of plays the same guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He was in he's been in some
Oh,
big
yeah, yeah,
ones.
yeah.
Character actor. Like you know his face when you see it. You know,
Yeah,
very
that's the
distinctive
guy.
voice too.
Oh, that's the
Hello,
guy.
how are we doing? Kind of like Richard Nixon-esque or something.
I really
Kind of a little bit
I
looks like
really
the I watched by the way, it's completely off topic. I started rewatching X-Files. The
Ooh,
smoking
love
man, he
X-Files.
kind of looks like
Yeah,
uh that guy.
yeah. X-Files is good. You ever watch the X-Files, Brandon?
no, I haven't seen it, but I was just looking at some of his work. You guys ever see Shaggy Dog?
Yeah.
I I have not. I didn't really
I
seek it
think
out.
I did see it. Yeah.
Oh, wait, is
Yeah,
that the
hey,
one
you
with
know
Timon?
what?
Or is that a different one?
Hey, it was originally, I think, Dennis Hopper was supposed to be Christoph. I read that.
Oh,
That's a
how
little
you
crazy.
doing, Truman? I made you.
You.
That would be a very
I can
different
Yeah.
see
performance.
it.
I don't know if he was quite as eloquent though. Like
No.
Ed Harris is like threatening, but he has like this gentle warmth, kind of.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel I don't know. I don't know if Dennis Hopper could have pulled that off. You know, maybe. Man, what
I
are you
made
doing?
you, man.
I'm
I
gonna kill
made
you now. I'm
you,
gonna
man. He
drown
shows up
you.
right through the moon. I made
It's
you,
like
man. I'm gonna kill you.
it's like
Comes out with a.
yeah,
He actually comes there with a
increase the
gun.
weather,
Kill
increase the
him.
storms. This is TV. We're on prime time, baby. Yeah, that would have been a
You
very
know who I
different move.
you know who I think would have made a really good Kristoff in all seriousness?
Who?
Michael Keaton.
Mm. Yeah, I can see it. Props to shout out to our lost episode, Batman Returns, the great
Oh
Michael
yeah,
Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Mm.
Or maybe you could do someone like Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito is Kristoff. I don't know.
It's
Very
entertainment.
different.
That's what the people want. It's
What the people
entertainment.
want.
Yeah.
Well,
So we're gonna
I think I was just gonna say I think this has gone off the rails enough that we can force ourselves to do a rating. Who
can I
wants to
tell my
go
Jim
first,
Carrey
Brandon?
story though?
Yeah, tell him the
You want to do that before or after? Yeah, no, sure. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
So Sarah got a kick out of this one.
Okay.
In college, I wasn't the best with the ladies. So I met this girl and we went out on a date and we went back to my apartment to watch a movie. And I said, do you like Jim Carrey movies? She said, I think Jim Carrey's awful. He's like a terrible actor. And I
Oh,
said,
shoot.
okay.
Whoops.
I was like, and this was before
Okay.
streaming, right? This was like right before, I mean, Netflix was out, but other than that, you didn't have like Paramount Plus or any of that crap. So I didn't have Netflix. And I was like, well, here's our options. Dumb and Dumber. It's the
Oh,
only DVD I own.
oh
So
no.
she was like, Okay. And then like halfway through the movie, she just looks at me and she's like, I'm gonna go. And I'm like,
Oh no.
and I never talked to her again. And as she's
Well,
leaving,
look,
I'm like,
look.
was it something I said?
Well, you know what? She wasn't the woman for you, and it worked out. You know,
That's
it's
right.
just, it's just this is how it goes sometimes. Um, yeah, yeah, that yeah, that was an amusing story.
Nice.
Oh man, yeah,
Mm,
that worked.
that's
I
tough.
can connect with that. Well, that's a rough
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Well, guess who we tracked down, Brandon? And I bring
Who?
her in. I found the
Oh,
girl. Now I
yeah.
bring
You just didn't have someone sophisticated enough to appreciate the universal appeal of pictures such as Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and
Unfortunately,
Dumber.
to be completely honest, just on a brief sidetrack, I didn't grow up with Dumb and Dumber, so I watched that movie much later, and I thought it was okay. I actually don't typically go for the really. I didn't really ever think it was that funny personally,
No,
but that's because I don't know. Didn't grow. That was never really my thing.
I never.
I
I'm with
don't know.
you.
I wouldn't have walked out in the middle though. There are some fun moments. I will say one thing: the sequel they did many years later was worse, awful, terrible,
That was
terrible.
hilarious. Just joking.
No,
They
no,
were both pretty bad. They were both
that
pretty.
that yeah, but the sequel was far worse though, far worse.
Whenever the chocolate
Uh,
melts in the bathroom and Bob's it's the deck.
oh, oh.
Bob's sorry, go ahead.
No, you got it, man. I got nothing. I have nothing.
That's it.
On that note, we have to get up early, so I have to move this along. Who wants to stamp it with the appeal unrevoked of what it is, the official Movie Minds rating of? Who's gonna do it first? Because I think I've got my rating. I feel pretty comfortable with it.
I want to hear it. Brad, are you ready?
All right, I'll go. Okay.
Okay.
So, the Truman Show. I think I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it 4 minds.
Ooh.
4 out of 5. Like I said, I think the story's really cool. I think there's a lot of good things about it. I would like it to do a little bit more. I think Jim Carrey's pretty good. It's not his best. I think he does a good job. When I think about these things, so it also like I don't really need to rewatch it. I don't really. It's that factors in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking a little higher. I was thinking a little. I was kind of going back and forth. So I'm gonna give it 4. That's it.
Okay. Brandon, you gonna go next or me?
You want me to go?
Sure.
I have my
I don't know if I've
rating.
ever gone last. Okay. Sure. I don't
All
think
right.
I've ever
I'm
gone last.
giving it before we met, I had my rating, and then I was listening to you guys, and my rating actually dropped. Um,
Oh, that's a first. Oh man, we ruined Truman.
Ruined the
No, we didn't
Truman
save it
Show
this
for
time.
me.
Usually it's like,
if you would have
okay, they made some good points. We just
if
destroyed it.
if you would have asked me in high
Zero
school,
minds.
I would have said like 4.5. But after rewatching it, I think also too because I don't remember it being as good as when I was a kid. Um, Now that I've watched more movies, mostly because of you guys, there's a lot more I'm looking for now. I think they missed their opportunity with this one. I think a shock ending or kind of the things I was talking about earlier, like you don't know it's a TV show, I thought would have been a lot better. From a cinematic standpoint, though, I thought it was good. I think I saw where Philip Glass did some of the music. Like I remember learning about him in music class, and I know he's like a really good composer. So there was the music was good. Um, the acting was good. I just was expecting more with the plot, and I was expecting more with the flow of the movie. So Going into this, I had it at 3.5. I'm actually dropping my official rating to a 3. I'm giving Truman Show a 3 out of 5 mines.
Ooh, okay. Wow.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, no, it makes some really good points. I really like the movie quite a bit, still, but I agree it's not super rewatchable, which for me, I think that's definitely a factor. But I will also say that it definitely gets you thinking. There's some good things. I love the concept. I think the acting's good, and like I said, I really like some of the technical aspects of the movie. There's some really cool stuff in there, but I don't, and it's not quite in the levels of greatness. Like we've said, I feel like pushing the boundaries, maybe of what it could do. It feels like there's a bit more, but it is still quite good, and I definitely think it's worth a watch. I like it, and I could definitely see people liking it more for sure. But I'm actually I was kind of dancing a little bit with Brad up there, but I think I'm going to leave it between you guys. I'm with 3.5. I think it's very good movie, but yeah, 4. I think we're starting to get closer to like greatness or just stuff that I really love. And this one's got some great moments like that, but not quite enough. So yeah, 3.5 mines for me.
All right, cool.
There it is.
That's it. It's official. It sucks. No,
Yeah.
it's
Boo! Burn every copy.
no, it was good.
No.
Yeah, it was tough for me.
Now,
I was going between 3.5, 4. I don't know. It's
honestly, believe it or not, I shouldn't have let Brandon go before me because you said 4, and I'm like, man, I'm just gonna give it a 4. That 4 sounds good for Truman Show, but I don't know. It's teetering for me, but I'm going 3.5 today. But you almost got me, Brad. You
yeah.
almost got me to 4. You almost did.
I'm
But
actually Brandon. I actually thought you might go the same or higher. I'm surprised you went.
with all the marketing
All right.
stuff, there's interesting
I don't know.
comments about
I
business
thought you would.
things.
I
Yeah.
thought you would like it more than that. But that's
Yeah, me too.
Like,
I thought you might have liked it more than either of us.
yeah.
I agree.
I thought you. Yeah. I definitely thought you'd like it more than me.
well, thank you for that. Like I said though, if this was 10 years ago,
Was it because
absolutely.
of the girl and Jim Carrey? Like, was that why you
No,
still like?
no, that had nothing to do with it. I think it's more like as I've it's hard for me to see Jim Carrey in serious roles because I grew up because my dad was a huge Living Color fan when that show was on the
uh,
air. And I've always and with that, he always liked the goofy Jim Carrey movies. So that's what I grew up with. So to see him in a role like this, for me, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Even though I know he's capable as an actor of doing it, it's just I always see him as the Mask. I see him as Lloyd. I see him as what
smoking.
was his name in Liar Liar? Fletcher Reed. Like, so yeah, I mean, it makes sense though. When people would read it and when people watch it, they would think it's my kind of movie. Absolutely. That's a fair assessment.
Mhm.
Totally.
We'll have to do like some. It'll be like one little episode we could do sometimes about movies we think the other person would like that we don't like. I've done that before
No, that'd be
on
cool.
the
I like
podcast.
that
That's
idea.
an interesting one.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. What would you assume? And then because I think Brad, you and I talked about that a couple times. Like Scarface, for instance, because I love mob movies. Everyone thinks I love it, but not a fan.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about
So,
Scarface. I do not like. Yeah,
so
but yeah,
yeah, so that might be interesting to have
There's
some
better ones
discussions
out
like
there
that.
than Scarface. Sure.
maybe we
Oh,
can do a.
ab-
Oh yeah, Scarface is. It's the
absolutely.
waste. No, it's not. It's just. We do some hot takes. Let's go. Like
Yeah.
the
Oh,
hotter the
Amanda hates it
take.
when I say that because I'm always building up a preamble to, well, this is a hot take. And then she's like, that's not a hot take. Everyone
Yeah.
thinks that. Like, man, no, I thought it was a hot take.
Hey,
Like, yeah.
strap in because I got a hot take for you. It's like
It's like hot take. Like, like Lord of the Rings is good. It's like, no, that's not.
It's not a take.
It's not really a hot take. That's
the
a bad example, but
coldest take.
the coldest take in cinematic history. Wow, what a safe conversation point, Joe. Seriously.
This
No.
podcast it's called Cold Takes.
Cold takes. Well, it's just like seriously though, we're so nice. We got to pick at some point. I know we have a couple more to go through, Brandon. We and the viewers. We're if you want to pick more obscure movies, I feel like it's like we're still pretty early at this, but we of course I love to talk about great movies and movies that people generally like. But I'd love it if we did find some more that maybe are more obscure or really personal to us that maybe aren't cinematic masterpieces. Like, I mean,
Yeah, that
that
would
might
be
be more
fun.
interesting because we could get some divisiveness, some arguing. We'll get our first one mind, zero mind, negative one
Half a
mind.
mind.
Like, yeah, we'll have to try some more
That is,
challenging stuff.
that's a good point. I think have been really generous. We speaking
Well,
of hot
it's been
takes,
pretty safe
we played it
movies. Like
safe. Yeah, totally.
it's
Mostly,
big
yeah.
movies. It's
Which
when
is fine. It's just
yeah.
I'd rather watch stuff I like, but I'm curious when and if we'll get to more, I don't know, interesting or layered or just straight up bad things. I don't know. We'll see.
We got
I just want to
to.
bring that moment
So
where I'm
Liza.
like,
what's
I love this. It's my favorite movie. You guys just give it zero minds. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm ready.
so
Ready.
what's next month? Or what's not
Uh,
month, next because we're going to a month, right? So
all right. Well,
is it Brad's pick?
before well, hold on. Let me tell you guys. We'll do this just as the recording before we hang up. Let me I'll bring up the official document. Let you guys know technically what the order is, and then we can decide from there. If I hold on, got to type in. I should have had it ready to go. Movie Minds, and
Did you
okay,
put
here we go.
Muppets Christmas Carol on there?
No, or not Elmo's thing. I almost cursed.
Almost.
No, none of that. None of that stuff. That's stuff.
Elmo
Okay.
and
Oh yeah.
Grouchland?
Okay. Actually, no. I'm sorry. You're right. You were right, Brad. Yeah, it is Brad's pick next. You know what you were picking, actually, Brad. You know what you're doing.
Yeah,
You remember?
yeah. There will be blood.
Yep. So There Will Be Blood is technically the next one we'll be doing. So yes, There Will Be Blood, Brad's pick, and yeah. I also, if anybody's interested, I have the results. I think from the poll of the next subscriber pick. After that,
Heck yeah.
drum roll, please.
Run it. Go ahead, drum
The Big Lebowski.
Big
There we go.
Lebowski?
The Big Lebowski.
Nice.
Straight fire. Just.
How did you do that? Reactions.
Oh yeah, there's a little.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is there like a turd button in case we? All right.
Oh yeah, that would be some visuals.
Oh yeah, the
Well,
poop.
I don't know. There are more. So many. Would that be Napoleon? I guess. Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
And, that's another thing too, guys. We'll have to arrange to see a movie in the theaters again at some point.
Yeah, that was
And
fun.
we'll have to do some filming and some live reactions of us watching together, maybe in the summer or something.
Mhm.
Got to do it.
I have a hot take, actually, as you guys, they were talking about this on a radio show I like.
Okay.
Is
Is
Big
it
Bird
Mark Hoppus's?
is
Uh-huh.
Big Bird a Muppet?
What?
Is Big Bird a Muppet? Bert and Ernie
I
are
think
Muppets.
part-
Is Big Bird?
I think isn't Big Bird like at least part Muppet, right? Because I think someone operates his top part, but there is somebody walking around. So does that constitute a Muppet?
It's a
Just
guy
the
in a suit, I
costume.
thought.
Guy in a suit. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's not a
I think
puppet.
I guess not. So wow, I guess Big Bird's not a Muppet.
He's a
He's a
canary
fake
that
Muppet.
lives on Sesame Street, but he's not a Muppet. I don't
He's not a
think.
great guy, from what I understand. I've heard some people really don't like Big Bird. He's a terrible person. If you do you
How
actually,
so?
Brandon, do you remember our friend Trent, the big Mr. Stiegel surprise? Oh, like,
Yes.
are you Trent? Josh, that whole thing. Well,
Yeah.
apparently every time I meet Trent, he's got a big thing against Big Bird. He thinks he's a lot of things I can't say on this podcast. He's like, he went on like one time we were just talking about Sesame Street and the inner workings, I guess, because he was just like, yeah, no, Sesame Street's this. He went like an hour rant about how he's one of the worst characters in fiction. I was like, I've never met anyone that I think hated a fictional character as much as Mr. Trent. Seriously, that was like, it was hilarious. I'm like, we got to record that because that was amazing. I was like, wow.
Are you trolling?
I thought Big Bird was nice. No, I'm being. Well, I mean, he might have been trolling, but like he was 100% serious. Like twice, he's told me about how much he hates Big Bird. Seriously.
That just sounds like somebody. That just sounds like somebody that would know Josh. Like I could see Josh agreeing with that. Couldn't you?
Well, you'll have to
Like,
ask. Oh, That reminds me. Actually, Josh indicated he might be interested in being on the podcast. I suggested a film for him, and he said that he might actually watch it with us. So it might be a special podcast if we do it. The Warcraft movie, because he likes World of Warcraft. So he said he'd never seen it. So I figured, hey, we might get Mr. Stiegel on for a Warcraft movie. He knows the lore. So
there we go.
Please do not tell Father Zeta that we're doing that movie.
Well, I won't tell him. It's purely for cinematic, analysis and discussion.
Father Zeta, they're doing the Warcraft movie. What do you think?
Not
Everybody do the Warcraft.
Didn't he say that was like bad? That stuff?
He didn't mention.
I don't think he specifically mentioned World of Warcraft.
He specifically canned World of Warcraft.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate that our podcast got a shout out during that speech?
Brad, kudos to you, and what kudos to you. Just what great strength character you have to ask the rating. I just wish you had gone a little further and specifically asked him to categorize the minds he would give the film.
How many minds you got there? Yeah.
How many minds would you give Nefarious? And he would have given it 5 minds.
He gave it. So yeah.
We're gonna have to review.
I just want to say further kudos to Brad for making that happen. I just want to say I got my house blessed today because of that. Like I really enjoyed him coming to the school. Like I thought that was really good. So he really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I'm really happy that you guys were able to make that happen. Seriously.
Did he come to your house? Did Father Zeta do it?
No, Father at 7 Sorrows down the street here.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. I'll take blessings.
Yeah. All right. Absolutely. Well, that's it. So are we doing There Will Be Blood or Big Lebowski? Which one's next?
Technically this was the fan pick, so There Will Be Blood next, then Big Lebowski. So at this rate, later this month or into February. Those will be our next 2.
Okay. Very cool.
I mean, I already have my rating for There Will Be Blood anyway, so I could be a really quick podcast.
I already got my rating.
Yeah, so
I've never seen it.
We'll just bully Brandon into
Yeah, Brandon, I'm interested in what you think about it. So
yeah, me too.
Okay,
me too.
I'll bring the DVD in. I got it. So.
Oh, sweet! So I can save. No, thank you, because I've been running up my wife's.
Don't keep buying stuff. Rent from the library, Brandon. I told you they got so many free things.
Yeah, I really
People forget about the library.
Yeah, the library's underrated, man. They got so much stuff.
They do. They have Elmo's, Grouchland. They got Big Bird.
We should review this stuff. Like it's a film. We can review it. I will review Elmo's. I was so angry, but then I'll pull all my weird movies out, and yeah, it'll be great. You can't say
3 grown men talking about this.
Well, we'll probably get more views then. I'm sure that
40-year-old guy. They did it. They reviewed my favorite movie.
It's somebody's favorite movie, and I'm glad it is. But we'll get there. All right, Brad. Please end this. Please end.
Okay.
Please.
All right, that's it. So you want to say goodbye? Sign off here.
Yes. All right. Bye, everybody. Say goodbye, Brad.
Anybody still here? Say bye. Yeah. Sorry about the Truman Show. Took a hit. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, it's such a big hit. You forgive us.
Take a big hit.
Thanks for listening and watching, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.